Welcome to the Millennial and a Boomer Walk into a Coffee Bar podcast.
The very best podcast to get your life advice in the form of a grande caramel macchiato in a venti cup, 1/3 whole milk, 1/3 almond milk, 1/3 soy milk, double the amount of vanilla syrup, caramel wall in the cup, no caramel drizzle on top, upside down, of course, tall ice cup, whipped cream, rounded lid, one shot extra espresso, decaf, cinnamon sprinkled on the top, and for the name, that's David, spelled Dafydd, please.
Or to get your business, finance, and life support black coffee advice, I'm Dan, I'm a Boomer.
And I'm Chase, the Millennial. Thanks for joining us today.
Here we are, back for another BAM episode. Good morning, Chase.
Howdy.
We actually got the opportunity to sneak away this morning and try a new breakfast place out. Therefore, on the way out, they gave us a coffee to go, which was a good thing. It's a common thing here in Texas.
Well, it's a good thing to have either way, no matter which state you live in, whether that's the state of Texas or the state of confusion. Coffee helps with both.
It does. But we're not drinking out of our coffee mugs, but the mugs are still available should anybody want to reach out to us. So we're winding down on our whole financial extravaganza. We had numerous in a row, and I think either this one or the next one might wrap that up. And then we're going back to talk a little bit about generational gaps and activities of the generations, and we're going to have a good time with that. But let's take home the financial end of this thing. So
yeah, we've got a two-parter to end out our financial series here, and I'm really excited because a lot of people will hear what we're about to talk about and they'll say, "Oh, that's for the boomers." However, and it's a big however here, right?
It is.
I think this one might just be most applicable or most beneficial for the younger listeners.
Yeah, because a lot of us boomers, it's too late, right? We got one foot in the grave and another on a banana peel. We just lost all of our morticians that listen to us.
I just found out a guy I work with was a former mortician. Really? And it really creeped me out.
It's kind of a dead end job.
Whoa!
Okay, but first of all, let's start off with a joke and then let's get going. Actually, I think we're going to have 3 episodes to finish the because I snuck one in there in the notes. I think you saw that, but I don't think you realized. But I love how money talks. The problem is all my money says is goodbye.
Oh, that's pretty good. I don't know if you knew this, but I used to be a baker.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. But I couldn't make enough dough.
I was talking to a millennial and he says, "Hey, I've been hacked. A hacker saw my financials and he set up a GoFundMe page for me."
Okay, that one was pretty good.
That one was pretty good. I kind of like that one. So, but anyway, we're going to kind of wrap it down because, as you start at the very beginning, you started with a budget, and now we're going to start at the end if you can do that, to retirement. And it's a big part. And I tell you, for you boomers, you're probably real close to retirement. For you millennials, Gen Z, Gen X, you're a ways away, but there's never a time like the present to start thinking about retirement and getting on there. So planning for retirement actually is where you can save enough money so you can be comfortable and enjoy when you're older the things that you enjoy when you're younger. If you don't plan accordingly, you're going to struggle a little bit. And by starting to save early, you can make sure you're ready for the future and actually take care of yourself and your needs.
Well, so there are many challenges and uncertainties that can make retirement planning difficult. And here's the thing. I think that there are probably a lot of boomers who are on the precipice of this retirement thing. Not of life, come on. they're on the precipice of I'm about to be done working, and then they log in to the old bank account and their retirement fund and all these other places. Maybe they look at their mortgage that they've refinanced a couple times, and they realize, maybe I'm not as close as I thought I was, right?
Right.
And there's a lot of challenges and uncertainties, and I think maybe I'm wrong. You tell me, that people just get overwhelmed with the various things out there around retirement and say, I'm just going to give up. I'm just going to keep working forever because
that's how people are now. Fewer and fewer people are actually retiring, and more people are staying in the workforce up until their 70s and even beyond. And you can see that in some of the businesses around. There's some aged people, very wise people, but they're still working. And I think a lot of that might have to do with planning. But look at it this way. People today are actually living longer, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, we've had a little bit of a glitch in the last couple of COVID years and things like that. But for the most part, people are living longer, and you need more money to cover your expenses for a longer period of time.
Yeah, so I don't know what the average age is. I would assume it's somewhere between 75 and 80, 81, 82, somewhere in there.
I think it is. I think it's 77. And 70. I want to say 74, 75. I think so.
Something like that. So if someone were to retire at 55, you've got 20 years you've got to financially cover.
Actually, they're even saying now, as one of the rule of thumbs, and we'll get there, so I'll put you in suspense because I'm not going to tell you right now, but there's a rule of thumb that you can base how long you should plan for your retirement. How long did you work? That's a hint right there. That's a hint. But anyway, not only are you living longer, but there's the rising costs as you get older of medical care, actually health care and things like that. I tell you, I feel worse every day, and I hurt more every morning when I wake up. Not that I'll go get on medicines or anything else, but the rising cost of healthcare as you get older, face it, you're going to go to the doctor more often. That's just part of, 2 and 2 equals 4 on that. So
until that sudden point in which you stop going to the doctor, but I think the alternative is probably better than that option.
Yeah, I think so. So you'll see a doctor more often, and you'll need more regular medications, I think. Now, the whole goal in life should be to be healthy, live right, eat right, and not go on medications. I think that's the ticket. So also, the big I word, inflation. What your spending power today is not what it's going to be next week and next month and next year. And for you millennials, the next 2 decades, right?
Wait. Is this the episode where we get to talk about the Fed? Can we talk about the Fed today?
That's
a different one.
Yeah, that we could go down that rabbit hole sometime later. So, but I'm talking inflation, you know.
Here's the truth of the matter with inflation, and we're not going to go down this rabbit hole. But since 1913, when the Fed was created, this is obviously for our American listeners, since we have so many international. Since 1913, our dollar has lost 94%
of its spending
power. What does that mean? Things are now 94% more expensive than they were back in 1913. You say, well, of course, it was 1914. That's a long time ago. Culture says that's okay. But the truth is, you got to plan for that, because another 100 years from now, it's less than $1 is less than a penny, right?
Exactly.
It's a big problem. You got to think about that.
Yeah, and so it will cost more money to buy the same items in the future, right? Mm-hmm. And then market changes. I'll tell you, I put kind of a sub-label on this: timing. The value of your investments can go up and they can go down. There's 2 things your investments are going to do, up or down. And I've known some guys that were actually retiring around the 2008 timeframe when we had the big downturn in the economy. And some of them had just retired, and they lost 60% of their retirement that was tied to the stock market in some of that. So timing is everything. Up to and the point where your savings grow or your retirement grows. Or the other thing is the big D word, death. If you knew when you were going to die, it would be easy, right? Mm-hmm. But you don't know when that is going to happen. And it's like collecting Social Security is the biggest thing. If you could look into the future and see when you're going to die, that would tell you when to take your Social Security. So anyway, not to be morbid and all that stuff, but timing is everything, right?
Oh, that whole death timing thing. Woo, what a doozy. Yeah, no, I think that's right. Market changes, and then you already alluded to it, but there's changes in social policies and programs. And if you're not going to let me go on the Fed, we're definitely going to go on Social Security today, because I think that it's really a tricky thing. I think too many people, specifically non-boomers, right, the next generations, X, millennials, Z, and Alpha, man, it wouldn't surprise me at all if this program isn't around by the time that we're ready to take. It's financially upside down already.
That's my rewind thing. Dan, this is your father speaking. Social Security won't be around when you're ready to retire. It's been around. That comment's been around. Now they're literally saying 2032 and 2032. So social changes, government changes, policies, political parties, power, things like that. Own it. Own your own destiny when it comes to retirement. But I tell you what, start planning now. You boomers out there, if you haven't planned, there's things you can do. But I tell you, there's things you should have done to be in a better position for retirement.
Yeah. And before we move on, because we're going to jump to the benefits and consequences of planning or not planning. But before we do that, there are boomers out there who are like, yep, I've got $25,000 in my investment account. Even though you're just before retirement, not all hope is lost.
Correct.
There are still things you can do
Absolutely.
that will help, even if you only have 3 to 5 years before you retire.
Right.
So let's get into some of the benefits and consequences.
Well, obviously, then I'll just speak out the obvious. There's have enough income and savings, plan well, so you'll have enough money to cover your expenses, and more importantly, to do the things you want to do in retirement. Don't let lack of money drive your retirement. Have money to do the things that you want to do. And everybody's different, right? You made a reference to a certain dollar amount. That might be fine for somebody, but it won't be fine for other people. So whatever you want to do and plan your life in retirement, I think the basis should be, hey, I want to keep with my standard of living. If you can go out for breakfast on a Friday morning and enjoy that, then you should be able to do that in retirement, and you need to be able to plan your funds for that.
And what that might mean for those people who are really close to retiring but not close financially, you might have to live below the standard of living you want for the next 3 years in order to get to where the standard of living that you want to have post-retirement.
That's good advice coming from a millennial, because that's directly geared towards the boomers. Because I think millennials, you guys have time, right? And you should take a little bit higher risks. Boomers should actually do what you said and start planning now and bite the bullet now in order to have a comfortable standard of living when you retire. So maintain your standard of living. I think that's at a minimum what your plan should be, is to continue to live the way that you want, the way that you have been. I think that's a big important thing. But on the other hand, if you don't plan for retirement, you might face some consequences. And what do you think of these consequences?
The first one, retirement savings gap. You might not have enough money saved to cover your expenses, which could lead to a lower standard of living or having to go back to work.
That 4-letter word.
Ooh.
If you don't have enough, guess what? You might have to go back and get back in the workforce. Now, I've tried retirement and I failed miserably, not because I need the money, but because I need something to do, and that's fine. But also it is work, and it's a 4-letter word. And so that's it. Now, you may want to work, but you may not want to have to work. I think
there's a big difference there, right?
Right.
Yeah. So I travel a lot for work, and I am in a lot of Ubers in cities all over the country. And what I have noticed, 5-10 years ago, you had all the young kids driving Ubers.
Yep.
I don't know if you've noticed this. The majority of the Ubers I take are men and women that are like 50, 55 plus driving Uber. And I'm always curious, like, are you driving because you have to drive, or are you just bored and want to get out of the house?
Because you want to. I talked to an Uber driver. He was an aged, really obviously well experienced in gray hair. At least he had hair. And
you
he
jealous?
made the comment, my wife told me to go get a job so that I could get out of the house in the morning. So I went and joined Uber. It wasn't a need. It wasn't that. It was get out from underneath my feet because you're hampering my retirement, the wife said to the husband. So anyway.
So when do you drive next? Oh, sorry. So the first one, retirement savings gap. The second one here, we're talking about the consequences,
Yep.
is the financial stress. Not having enough money saved can cause stress and worry during your retirement years. And so the question you got to ask yourself is, what type of retirement do you want to have? The kind where you're always looking at your checkbook. Do I have the ability to go out to the Wednesday evening or Wednesday afternoon lunch with the other retired ladies?
Right.
Or do I want to stay at home and have ramen again because that's what I saved for?
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese.
Mac and cheese. And I don't want to lose all of our craft listeners now, but yeah, that's exactly how it is. You don't want to have the financial stress. In fact, when you're getting older in your health and you don't have the friends around you and your colleagues at work, the last thing you need is the financial stress of not having enough money. So let me jump into a couple of things about getting ready for retirement. Housing. And it's not just about paying your rent or paying your mortgage. You need to position yourself because even if you pay off your house, there's things like taxes, home maintenance. If you're getting older, your house is getting older, utility bills, insurance is skyrocketing, or rental property too. So even if you pay off your house and mortgage, boy, that is awesome. Go for it and try it. Should be a goal. It can make your housing costs lower if you do that, but you still have a lot of expenses that need to be taken into consideration when you retire.
Yeah, and we've talked about some of those maintenance things on the podcast over the course of this finance thing. I mean, our house was built in 1980. It's currently 2024. I dropped, what was that, $15,000 on plumbing issues?
Yeah, right after you bought it too.
And I've never seen the fix because it's all under the dirt.
Yeah.
So it's not even like, oh, cool, I got a new bathroom out of it. Nope, I just spent $15,000 and never saw anything different.
Yeah.
Other than water that actually flows out of the house. But that's a whole nother thing.
That's a good thing too. So, but anyway, so make sure you plan for that. And then food expenses. That's not only groceries, right? That's eating out, the snacks that you buy, the drinks that you buy. There's a lot to the food expense that you have. Everything's more expensive. You can't go to even a fast food restaurant. Not that you would want to. Well, we just lost all of our McDonald's listeners. But seriously, it costs more. It costs a significant amount more.
Yeah, and I didn't see here on your thing, but I guess this would fall under the same area, right? Is like entertainment and food. So if you decide to go to a movie and you want popcorn, dude, popcorn in a movie, that's like $40 now.
Yeah. Well, let me tell you something too. And I've really noticed, and my wife and I have had this conversation, food is entertainment to us. I would much rather go out with friends and go, that's our entertainment. We rarely have people come over and we rarely get invited to go over. That used to be a thing. It was a thing of the past. But I'll tell you now, our social life rotates around food. And I'm a big food person.
So interesting. I think that's one of those pendulum things, right? With your generation, when you were younger, you'd go over to people's houses,
right.
And now it's going out.
Yeah.
With the millennials, I get invited to people's houses way more than we go out now.
I like that better. I think that's a good thing to do. So
anyway, just an interesting side
food.
note.
Yeah. How often are you going to go out? Your food habits. How often are you going to make a sack lunch? How often are you going to do the things, cook more meals at home? It's hard to cook for two people, but will you dine out more frequently? Those are some of the things associated with retirement.
Yeah. So not only food, but then there's the transportation costs. It's more than just gas money.
It is.
Right? You've got car maintenance, insurance, registration, public transportation. Maybe you even want to go and have the same standard of living and go on vacations. These are all transportation costs that you've got to think about. And again, just like you're getting older and you need to go to the doctor more, your house is getting older, it needs more maintenance. Your car is getting older and it potentially needs some maintenance as well.
Exactly.
Which we won't talk about the old Dakota going downhill, man.
That's a whole nother story. But you have a 1990
95
truck.
Yeah, if anyone has a radiator, I could use a new radiator. So
If
mail
anyone
it
could
to
install a rail. Yeah, given the 1-800 number to call us. So
but you know what? You might be driving less, right? You're not commuting into a workplace anymore, but you might be traveling more, whether that's a fun adventure, the grandkids, whatever that other thing is. Maybe you're volunteering somewhere now. You're still driving. So
exactly. And then kind of one of the other things is healthcare, and it can really take up a big chunk of your retirement. I retired and I pay for my own healthcare, and it is pricey, very pricey. Insurance premiums, whether it's Medicare or supplemental policies, out-of-pocket costs, doctor visits, prescriptions, over-the-counter medicines, they all add up. So healthcare is one that's significantly underestimated by a lot of pre-retirement people. It's a big wake-up call when you get to that point.
Yeah, and then I guess we'll finish here, and then we'll jump into the next section next time. But lastly, insurance and taxes. There are both insurance policies, right? We've talked about home insurance, we've talked about auto insurance, but what about life insurance or long-term care insurance or a host of other types of, and again, we've did a whole episode on insurance, so go back and listen to that if you have questions, but there are a lot of insurance costs. And then let's just compound that with the taxes, which if you're not going to let me get in the Fed, you're not really going to let me get into Social Security. My goodness, taxes.
Yep.
It's ridiculous. And they tax your retirement income.
Yes, they do. And even they tax your a certain portion of your Social Security. And, you need to have a plan. You even need to have a tax plan. And I'm not smart enough to figure that out. So I did hire a financial advisor. I've always been of the one mindset, I'm okay if I lose my money, right? I'm totally okay. But if someone else loses my money, that's not okay. So I struggled quite a while. My wife had to wrestle me down and say, go get a money manager, but it was primarily for taxes. So it's not going to get any easier. It's not going to get any better. So anyway, these are just some good things to plan. I think it applies to both millennials and even to Gen X, Gen Z. You have a lot to offer now in advancing your retirement savings. Boomers, you're on the cusp, but hang in there and try to do some things now that will help you in the very near future.
Yeah, and what I will say to both of these groups, whether you're about to retire, you still have a long runway, maximize the amount of money you put towards your retirement.
Right.
Because if you're closer to the retirement age, you actually get to invest in yourself more.
Right.
The levels are higher. But if you're younger, you still want to maximize it because remember that math class that we all slept through? Compounding interest? It's a real thing.
It is.
And you can take, I don't even remember what the number is. We talked about it on another podcast, but it's a very small amount of money that if you set that aside every day, you will by the time you retire, you will be a millionaire.
Yep.
And it's like, oh, that cup of coffee that you buy every day, if you just invested that in yourself, now you get to go and you get to have the vacations during retirement.
Right.
Now you get to live a little mentally better because you're not always worried about every penny because you've spent the time to invest in yourself over the course of a lifetime. Right. All that to say,
good friend.
Good friend. Next time you're going to want to join us, we're going to talk about estimating your retirement expenses and sources of income during retirement. It's going to be good. And we'll see you then. Don't forget, just because it's different
absolutely does not mean it's wrong.
See you next time.
Bye.